Hi Glamour, I am Vanessa Williams and I will be breaking down some of my iconic looks from TV and film. The first look is a gold sequin peplum dress gown. When I was Miss New York, that was very much of the era to wear a peplum with a straight skirt. Number two is my look that I wore in Atlantic City in the Miss America pageant, and that was a halter gown done in lavender lace with brocade applique, sequin applique. I remember going down to the garment district with Vicki Langley. She was the director of the Miss Syracuse, then she made my gown for Miss America. It was a mermaid style, which nobody else was really wearing at the time. But now I think it's all coming back, which is kind of strange. I got a gown at our local department store called Sibley's and a bathing suit there, and ended up winning that. Then went to Stage July of 1983, and then ended up being a Miss America, in September of 1983, 6 months after I decided to even delve into this world. But there had never been a black Miss America before, but that year, there happened to be 5 of us of color. That was the most that there'd ever been. So we knew that there was definitely a tremendous change that year in 1983 in September, but also Deneen Graham, who was Miss North Carolina, she had a cross burned on her front lawn because she was black, representing North Carolina. Most of America was ready, and some were not. Ugly Betty, 2006 to 2010. One of the best shows of my life. Not only because it was so unexpected, and I talk about those opportunities where people count you out and you get a chance to prove. It's those little seeds of something great when people don't expect anything of you and then you show them. This is that show. We did the pilot here in New York. It was fun. There was nothing like it on TV. So when I finished, I said, oh, that'll be fun. It'll never get picked up because there's nothing like it on TV. And then it got picked up. They had cast somebody else. I'd gone through a family tragedy. My father had died. I went to Egypt with my family just to kind of get away from everything. And I didn't really want to work on anything. It was like pilot season, and I was like, I am taking this time off to grieve with my family. So I didn't engage in the offer. They cast somebody else, and then they came back and said, listen, we have to have you. I met Pat Fields in the wardrobe trailer that next day. Luckily, she had pulled this ivory suit. It fit, and that's where Wilhelmina started from the wardrobe trailer in the middle of the streets in New York. I think there is pretty much of a contrast in terms of attitude with how we started and where we ended up. By the time Wilhelmina is done on the last season in 2010, she's got hoods on, she's wearing fishnets, she's got berets and bright colors, and there is no restriction with her. I think starting out it was very conservative, a lot of the off-white silver, and I think she definitely grew into her own. Wilhelmina's looks were sometimes off the rack, that were available at the time, but also Pat Field and her team had people that were collectors of Thierry Mugler, and they knew where they lived, and they knew where to get it, they knew stores that had them, and they knew private collectors. So a lot of the iconic suits that I was wearing were real vintage Thierry Mugler that were either on loan or were purchased by specific vintage shops or collectors. Ugly Betty was always kind of telling a story and being bold enough to be who you were despite all the obstacles and all the judgment that's put in front of you. And I think that's what made it kind of groundbreaking, and it ended up being a phenomenon. So never count out anyone. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, 1992. I played a sports journalist covering the Lakers game. It was one of those funny opportunities where I met Will, who was a young star, and he was surprised that I was as funny as I was. It was an iconic show. I actually was really pregnant in this episode, but was not as pregnant as they patted me on top of my pregnant belly, pregnant with my son Devin, because I went into labor in this episode. I have no idea why my character is wearing different colored shoes, but I do know that when you were pregnant back in the day, there were not many options for maternity wear. It's gotten way, way better. And now mothers don't even really buy maternity stuff because they just wear oversized stuff or tight things and show off their belly. But back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, when I had my first 3 kids, they were way more voluminous and almost cartoonish. I'm glad those days are over. Soul Food 1997. I played the eldest sister of three, and Harry, who was the kind of the boss of it all. This was quintessential 90s. I'm wearing, corduroy blazers, which were huge back in the mid-90s. Chaikin and Capone were the name of the pants that I wore, which were kind of an updated khaki, but that the style then was just about at the ankle and a little bit of a flare, which is again is total 90s, and a lot of silk and satin, big buttoned, wide collared shirts with a little bit of a blouson sleeve, definitely 90s. When we're at the wedding, myself and Vivica Fox are wearing the same dress. She's pregnant, but we have the same kind of cut, and she wore her scarf a different way, and I wore my scarf a different way, just to show that sisters don't always have to match. I wore a scarf because they're very put together. They're very elegant and almost preppy in a way where she wants to define herself. I've got a law degree, take me seriously. And that's, I'm from Chicago, but want to be known for my brains as opposed to my family. And I chose a auburn, kind of a short wig, just because I wanted to show that she was sophisticated, that she was a lawyer, to be taken seriously. And I remember being so over wearing my wig every day that I think I set it on fire the last, once we were finished with our final scene. I literally set the wig on fire because it was enough is enough. Thank you, Glamour, for taking me down memory lane and reviewing some of my most favorite looks.